love
figure out.
this relationship too of Sokka
It's
and
so
this
good.
guy. Like kind of as a like not a replacement father, but it kind of has
Feels
that
like
vibe to
this.
it. You know what I
They
mean?
just have
Like,
they have the same, yeah, they have that feeling in relationship, and it's very also
mhm.
like it does a good job of showing Sokka's ingenuity and that he
Oh,
does
yes, he's
think
so
in that
smart.
way.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like I love how they consistently through the episode like call it, they're like, oh, good job, like thank you, and like calling each
Yeah,
other
yeah. They're
geniuses
like,
like the
oh,
whole
I know,
time.
genius, fellow genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they find an old egg and it cracked and it smells horrible. And so this is when they realize that like a stinky egg is the solution. If the rotten eggs
Hmm.
are in the cellar, the gas will mix with that. And then if they smell the rotten egg, they
Hmm.
know they can smell a leak.
Which
Um,
genius. Love it.
yeah. So smart. I also love how it's just like, well, they're figuring out like methane gas essentially,
Methane
like
gas.
it's
Yeah. Like,
which is hilarious.
dude, what's it?
They
There's
fig-
another show that does that where they're, it's an anime. It's called The Apothecary Diaries. And the
okay.
way this girl, it's like ancient China, and the way she
Mhm.
figures out these crimes and solves these mysteries is through like modern things. Like she makes chocolate, she makes a brownie, and people are like, "What is this amazing thing?" And I
It's
crack
just
up.
like
I'm like, "Oh, the recipe is just a brownie or like a chocolate chip cookie."
that's honestly such a funny thing to
I
do.
love
Like,
those little bits and shows. It's cute.
so yeah, they do that. They figure out methane gas essentially. And then Aang and Teo are back at the door, and Aang uses airbending to open it. Which again, this is the first time in the episode, I believe, that we get some of the 3D animation mixed in with the 2D because you
Mm,
have like the
hmm.
airbender door like moving and stuff. And like we'll get to it later, but there's a lot of 3D animation mixed in with this episode. Like
Hmm.
a crazy amount, honestly. Which like it looks good, but it's also sort of jarring. Like it's just
It does
it's
stick
very
out, but I'll let him have it.
like it's good animation. It just is obviously different than the rest of the show. Like you
Hmm.
can very clearly be like, oh, that's the 3D animated
That's the
thing.
thing that's gonna move in
Yeah,
this
like and
scene. Yeah.
it sticks out even more than like because you can see that just generally in the 2D animation when it's like a couple weeks ago whenever they were the volcano thing and like Momo was helping dig the trench, like you had the
Oh
one rock
yes,
that was
yeah,
like obviously gonna move, but like that even
yeah.
still looks different than like the whole 3D like
The whole
thing.
3D tank that
Yeah,
moves
like
later that we'll
the like
see.
flips and moves, which also I have a point for those whenever we get to them soon. But so we go back to them opening the door, and Aang opens it, and inside it is filled to the brim with Fire Nation weapons and contraptions, and a giant weather balloon with a Fire Nation symbol. And Teo's dad catches up to them, and Aang is like, "You're making weapons for the Fire Nation." Dun dun
Insane. I
dun.
remember this plot twist as a kid, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like that was the craziest
Oh,
thing you could see on TV.
it's wild. And so obviously they all get very mad. And Teo's dad explains that Fire Nation soldiers had found them, and to save himself and his son, he offered up his skills. And Aang is like, you can't give them what they want. And he's like, well, they'll destroy everything if he doesn't. And Teo says, how can I be proud of you if your inventions are being used for murder?
Oh,
Which is like,
oh,
oh,
I thought it was
I didn't
funny because I
understand.
made a point where I was like, "This is like kids with parents who work at Lockheed Martin or something."
Yeah, I know someone who works at Lockheed Martin. And I'm just like,
Oh,
but like,
you're like, "All right in your Lamborghini, though."
yeah, it's rough. It's some rough stuff, and it like again, it's just a really interesting, like it's a very nuanced thing to again put in a kids
Yeah,
cartoon. Like he's having to make tough decisions. He's looking out
yeah,
for his
and he has
family.
to keep them alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so the kids all hide when the Fire Nation soldier arrives to collect the weapons, and then Aang comes out and is like, nah, like you're not getting this stuff. And
Mm-mm,
like
veg.
goes
Think
up to him
again.
and he like lets the Fire Nation guy leave, which I mean, I guess, yeah, it's not like he's gonna kill him or capture him. So like that's really the only
Yeah,
like
true. I was thinking about it. I was like, he just goes. He's gonna. What if you could have captured him so he didn't? But I guess if he didn't return, they would have been like, oh, our guy didn't
uh
return. I don't know.
I do love how like whenever he goes back down through the trap door, Aang like uses airbending to like emphatically close the door
Slam it
after him.
shut.
I'm like, all right, just the most drama. Um,
So
and
dramatic.
so the guy says the Fire Nation will come back and destroy the temple, and so the gang then has to make a plan to fight them off. They can use sky power to fight them, and they can win. Um, Sokka helps to get the air balloon to work. He has an idea to put the lid on the top to control the hot air in and out, which is cool.
I
So
love
they
that there's a
use
little joke here Qatar makes. She's like, wow, Yeah, how do we get a lid on hot air? Like about Sokka, it's so good.
Yeah, and so they use smoke, slime, fire, and stink bombs, and then the rest of the episode, for the most part, is basically just a straight up siege, like against the
Yeah,
Northern Air Temple. Like it's like a solid like 8 to 10 minutes. That's just like
it
a battle
is.
sequence. Like it's straight
I,
up. It's
and
cool.
it's a good. It's
Yeah,
very. I was like,
it's
this is a good battle sequence. Like this is
it's
awesome. I feel like this is straight out of a war movie.
yeah, it's got the thing where like I can't remember where I originally like heard this quote or saw people talking about it, but it's the thing where like in battle sequences or sieges or whatever, and when you're depicting them in fiction, and like it happened in obviously like real war too and like medieval times, but like having the stages of the battle sequence, like that's how you create drama
Mm,
in there. Like it can't just be like one, like they just clash. Like there you have
yeah.
like the initial thing and then like a counterattack and then like a count and like breaking it up into those stages to create the tension and the drama throughout. And like
Ooh.
they do that here. Like you get the different
Yeah.
like they do this and then like they like retaliate with this and then so now they like have to
Like
do
I like
this
when
and
all
like you
the
have the
flying
different.
people they take off at the beginning and you hear all the other people on the ground like cheer for them as they help them take
Mhm.
off, and it's very reminiscent of like the planes on those boats taking off.
Yeah,
What are those called? I don't even. I'm not a
military
history
expert.
war person, but
Yeah,
whatever those are
no,
called.
but like
Yeah.
they go through the various like stages in battle and that's what keeps it
Mhm.
like engaging and interesting and you're like, oh, okay, and like you get to see the back and forth there and
Like
like
kind of like grounded in
obviously
reality almost.
the gang is gonna win, but like it still
Yeah.
like does a good job of like giving you the different phases there and really like keeping you engaged. What I was gonna point out with the Fire Nation tanks, two things actually, because I remember my other funny thing. They just straight up are a bunch of Batmobiles. like they,
Oh
I
my
can't,
god.
I can't not think of the because they literally whenever they pull up, they have a grappling hook thing that they shoot against the side of the cliff, and then they just like hit the edge of the wall and they drive up, and it's literally just exactly what the Batmobile and Batman Forever does.
And
Like
listener, if you
it's
don't know this, Alex is a Batman fanatic and knows anything and everything
yeah.
about Batman.
So it's just
So
like
we got
I
to put that
couldn't
in there.
not think about that the whole time. I was like, oh, they just watched Batman Forever, and that's what. Which I
And they
like.
put
I'm
that
sure
in.
Batman. It's probably not the
I'm
first thing
sure
or
they
only
like,
thing to do
yeah.
that, but like, it's so good. So there's
And
just
I
a bunch
do
of
like the scenes
Batmobiles.
too where it like falls, where they get it to fall and then it shoots another one up
Yeah,
to
and
stay
like,
up. Those things are sick. That's
so
cool.
like yeah, all the Fire Nation Batmobiles are 3D animated, which is one of the other like major components that's 3D. They're not tanks, they're Batmobiles.
The
um,
Batmobiles. We're gonna
and
call them that from now on. The Batmobiles.
but then I also notice because there's a sequence in one of the battle phases where like they start flipping the Batmobiles over,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it's hilarious because like they flip them over, but then the like middle carriage part of it ends up being able to like
Right.
spin completely,
Mm-hmm.
so like they're still
Which
right
is
side up.
so sick.
But it's hilarious because if you pay attention, the Fire Nation symbol that's not part of the middle part of the carriage, it's part of the front axle, is already oriented right side up after they flip over in the
Oh,
middle. And so like
hey.
it's just a small animation thing where like they
A
just
small
like
goof, yeah.
yeah, like it just was like it wasn't upside down, it was still right side up so that it would still but like I'm just like but that would have been upside down
You're
if
like,
you had
if you
like
actually spun them over.
yeah, it's just a funny thing that I noticed, and it's like that.
Actually.
It's like that for all of them too, because like I noticed it on the first one, and I was like, and then like they do it for the couple ones, and like
I didn't notice that.
it's already right side up by the time they like the middle carriage spins around, and I'm like, well,
Hmm.
but unless, but yeah, so it's just a funny thing, like.
Hey, Aspect listener. Enjoying the show?
Then be sure to subscribe here on The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And check out more episodes and clips on our playlist here.
Thanks so much for watching, and
Lamio Hotman.